Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this edition of Pan-African Digest podcast. The topic we're treating today is the Yoruba philosophy that made character greater than wealth, ỌKÀN. Today, I want to ask you a question that should disturb every African who still possesses the courage to think. How did the civilization that once placed character above wealth become one that worships wealth regardless of character? How did we arrive at this tragic destination where a man who steals public money is celebrated because he drives an expensive vehicle, while the honest man who sleeps with a clean conscience is dismissed as a fool? The answer, I believe, lies somewhere in something we have forgotten. The Yoruba call it ỌKÀN. And perhaps nowhere is Africa's civilizational decline more visible than in the disappearance of this extraordinary philosophy. For decades, we have blamed colonialism for almost everything that has gone wrong on this continent. Some of that is justified. European conquest devastated African institutions and violently interrupted our historical development. But there comes a point in life of every civilization when excuses become another form of surrender. There comes a moment when the people must stop asking who destroyed us and begin asking the far more uncomfortable question: what did we abandon that made destruction possible? Because no civilization collapses from external attack alone. It first collapses internally. It first loses confidence in itself. It first forgets its own wisdom. And that is precisely what happened to Africa. One of the greatest casualties of colonialism was not our land. It was our moral imagination. Our ancestors built society whose stability often astonished early European visitors. There were communities where homes require no locks. There were villages with neither standing armies nor sprawling police bureaucracy. Yet, theft remained rare and public life was regulated by an entire moral discipline. Modern Africa finds this almost impossible to believe. They ask, where were the police? The better question is, where was the conscience? Because the Yoruba understood something that modern societies have largely forgotten. A nation cannot police itself into morality. No number of prisons can replace a functioning conscience. That is the genius of ỌKÀN. Long before Sigmund Freud theorized about the superego, long before modern psychology explored guilt and moral consciousness, long before European philosophers debated ethics, the Yoruba had already identified the invisible judge living inside every human being, ỌKÀN. The witness of the soul, the incorruptible observer. It cannot be bribed. It cannot be intimidated. It cannot be manipulated by political propaganda. It never accepts campaign donations. It never feared powerful men. It records everything, every betrayal, every lie, every kindness, every injustice, every secret. Even when the whole world applauds a dishonest man, ỌKÀN records the truth. And because our ancestors understood this, they built an entire civilization upon one breathtaking principle: Iwalewa. Character is beauty. Not complexion, not fashion, not imported luxury, not political office, not inherited wealth. Character. The Yoruba measure greatness differently. A prosperous fool remained a fool. A corrupt king remained dishonorable. An eloquent liar was still morally bankrupt. No amount of gold could purchase integrity. No palace could conceal a rotten soul. The greatest ambition was never to become rich. It was to become Omoluwabi, a complete human being. Disciplined, truthful, compassionate, courageous, honorable. Governed from within by a Ореokun. Now compare that civilization with the African we inhabit today. Our billionaires become role models before anyone asks where the billions came from. Our politicians convert public office into private investment portfolios. Criminals receive standing ovations. The honest are mocked. Religious centers overflow every weekend, yet corruption flourishes outside their gate with breathtaking confidence. Universities produce more graduates than ever before, yet wisdom appears increasingly scarce. Somehow we have mastered the art of appearing respectable while quietly abandoning the fashions that once made respectability possible. This is not modernization, it is a moral invasion. One of Africa's greatest intellectual tragedies is our confusion between mechanization and civilization. We imagine that skyscrapers produce civilization, that GDP creates morality, that technology manufactures integrity. History says otherwise. Rome possessed magnificent engineering, it still collapsed. The Soviet Union possessed extraordinary scientific achievements, it still disintegrated. Economic prosperity without ethical restraints has never guaranteed a civilizational survival. History is merciless on that point. Civilizations rarely die because they become poor. They die because they become morally exhausted. As someone who spends time farming, I've learned one lesson that nature teaches repeatedly. Decay is always silent before it becomes visible. The tree appears healthy long after disease has begun inside. Societies behaved exactly the same way. When truth becomes negotiable, when honor becomes fashionable, when shame disappears, when wealth becomes the only language that commands respect, decline has already begun. Even if the skyline continues to grow taller. That is why Africa's crisis is not primarily economic, it is philosophical. We have imported constitutions, imported political theories, imported educational models, imported economic doctrines, imported development strategies. Yet we abandoned the indigenous philosophy that once regulated our conduct from within. The ỌKÀN called us back through Sankofa, go back and fetch what has been forgotten. The Yoruba offers a Ореokun. Neither philosophy asks us to reject modernity. They ask us to remember ourselves. Imagine an educational system where children are taught not merely mathematics and science, but also the discipline of conscience. Imagine political leaders who fear the verdict of their own soul more than they fear losing elections. Imagine a society where parents ask not how much money does he have, but what kind of human being he is. That was once our inheritance, and it can become our future again. Marcus Garvey issued a warning that Africans ignore at great cost. He said, if the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Africans, perhaps we are already tasting that poison. But history also teaches that civilizations can recover, provided they possess the courage to rediscover themselves. Africa's renaissance will not begin merely with new roads or bigger airports or larger budgets. It will begin when conscience once again becomes fashionable, When children learn that a spotless name is worth more than an inherited wealth. When public office becomes a sacred trust instead of commercial enterprise. When Omoluabi once again become a greater aspiration than millionaire. Because a civilization that worships money inevitably produces wealthy scoundrels. But a civilization that venerates character produces men and women whose name outlives kingdoms. So, I will leave you with one final question. When history writes the story of our generation, will it say that we inherited one of the world's oldest moral philosophy and abandoned it for imported illusions? Or will it say that we recover the wisdom of our ancestors just in time to rescue our civilization? The choice is ours. Because a people who abandon the guardianship of a ryokan eventually surrender the guardianship of their future. Thank you very much for listening. Please, if you find today's reflection worthwhile, kindly subscribe to our Pan-African Digest. Share this episode with someone who still believes Africa's greatest resources is neither gold nor oil, but the moral genius of our civilizations. Until next time, remember that the greatest wealth any human being can ever possess is a conscience unburdened by shame. Thank you very much. My name is Femi Akomalafe. Until next time, Ireo.